Welcome to Power of the Tribe podcast. I'm your host, John Connors. I'm also the founder and head instructor of Connors Martial Arts Academy here in Norwood. Give us a call. We'll help you have a better life, thinner waist, more relaxed, relieve some stress.
Whiter teeth.
Whiter. Well, yeah, possibly. Just listen to the podcast. You'll get all the benefits. Don't even come in.
Yeah.
Just listen to this podcast. Stay away. Stay at home and just listen to these episodes on loop.
And almost everything in your life will be better very, very quickly.
Everything will get better. I'm actually a little bit taller since I listened to these things.
Really?
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah.
I've been regrowing hair.
I haven't been regrowing hair, Dan, and this is my host, Dan Robin, co-host. How you doing, Dan?
I'm good.
I have not been regrowing my hair, but I will say I care less about the thinning and the whitening and the otherwise dying off of my hair.
Now, is it just about your hair or everything in life?
Just my hair. Yeah.
Because for me, I'll tell you, so this week, as you know, I've been trying, finally, after 6 months of lazing around in quarantine, I'm like, let me get back in shape. And it's not easy. It doesn't feel good. Like eating healthy is brutal and running is brutal. Everything's brutal.
The turnaround is so hard. It's like you're a giant oil tanker and you're trying to turn 180 degrees.
Yeah, and your body doesn't even react like when I was humming along. And we probably mentioned on the podcast, but I would, from Monday to Friday, I would just lose 8 pounds just eating healthy.
Right.
Now, your body just doesn't do it. Like it just doesn't. This might be the least I ate from Monday to Friday in my entire life, and it just didn't lose that much weight.
You don't move the needle that much.
Yeah, I think we've seen it. Like you have to trust the process, and eventually it'll go.
I think when you cut back on the sugar, it takes 2 to 3 weeks for your body to really acclimate itself, and you really start burning fat. And then once you get going in that eating healthy, fat burning mode, then you can have a cheat day, and you can rebound pretty quickly. But if you're living all cheat days and you try to clean it up, man, it takes 2 or 3 weeks for it to kick in, right?
It takes a while. It seems to. But what I was going to say, though, is, and this helped me a lot, and I don't know why it happened, so I have no insight.
All right.
I entered this state, and maybe it's just like lacking calories or half to
blood
death,
sugar dropping,
to death or something. I just entered this state of just not caring at all about like my discomfort or anything.
Nice.
Like I just felt like literally I would lie there and be like, I'm so hungry and I don't give a shit. Like I would just feel like I don't care. I like literally would feel like hunger pangs in my stomach and be like, I don't care.
I like it, Dan. I could see the title of a book here for you.
The
Power of Profound Apathy. How about that?
I think so.
Yeah.
It even got to, and this isn't quite as much because pain is pain, but even running, I'd be like, oh, this hurts. And I'd be like, my legs hurt. And I can't get my breath, say.
Yeah.
I'd be like, I don't care. So what? Like, it sort of like didn't emotionally affect me.
That's good.
You know what I mean? Like, picture your legs hurt, but you just sort of don't care.
Screw it.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, screw it. I just had apathy all week over everything. Who knows? Like you said, maybe it's crashing blood sugar or something. But I was just like, I just don't care. I don't care that I feel hungry. I don't care that my legs hurt when I run.
Nice.
I mean, then I started thinking, like, again, the profound power of apathy, right? Like, imagine apathy towards things. You can have a lot of happiness, right? Your neighbor yells at you, and you're like, I don't care. Yeah, exactly. It's like, guess what? There's a flat tire in your car. You're like, that's fine. I'll go, I'll
It is way better, right? Yeah.
Yeah, all the things. Think of whatever's bugging you in life right now. If you were just like, I don't really care. Like, you can't do it, I guess, for... Well, maybe there's almost nothing you could do. I mean, for very severe things, I was going to say, but maybe you even could. Just things that are like, for most of the things other than like, severe illness, say.
Right.
Most of the things that's bugging us and most of the people listening, you could probably look at and go, who cares?
I think you're onto something.
Who really cares?
You know what was bothering me, Dan? I would be driving from my house to the academy, going down maybe Washington Street here in Norwood, and people in the side streets or the parking lots, they get very aggressive about coming onto the road. It's very weird. It's almost like they're playing a game of chicken with you. And they used to irritate me. Or they're at a stop sign, and as I approach, they start rolling into me, and I'm like, are they going to smash into me, come in front of me, but they're trying to draft immediately behind me in my car, and it's sort of annoying. And what I just started doing the last few days is I just put my hand out the window and go, go ahead.
Yeah. Okay.
I just wave them on ahead of me. And it feels a hell of a lot better to have that apathy. Just like, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah.
And they're like, wow, thank you. What a nice
Because
neighbor.
all life, right, is like people in front of you throwing cigarettes out the window and just,
That's
you know,
the worst, right?
cutting you off and just like
what is with
you just-
cigarette smokers, right? They literally, there's some guy at the academy, it's not one of our academy members, but somebody is smoking like 2 cigarettes in front of my door and leaving the butts there every day, like in front of my door. It's so disgusting and annoying. I'm like, would I go to your house?
Yeah, why do we have this social contract that smokers have that they're allowed to throw the butts on the ground?
The butts are not littered, Dan. They're perfectly
why is that?
natural.
There's nothing else. I bet those same smokers don't throw other stuff on the ground.
I don't know. I saw a grown
Maybe.
man take. So when I was a kid, they used to call. I'd never smoked cigarettes. A box. So they would come in a soft pack or a box. So they get a box of Marlboros. It's like a more harder package. And
They
I've
don't
seen
have that
guys.
anymore?
I don't know, Dan. I have no. But I've seen grown men take those things and crumble them up and drop them on the ground. Like that crumbling is going to enable that thing to immediately.
Since it's crumbled.
It's crumbled. It's going to start degrading immediately, and it's going to be part of nature in minutes because of that crumble. It's so gross, right, that they get away with littering like that. It's crazy.
Yeah, I might have told you once, I don't know if it came up on the podcast or just we were talking, but I was once at a stoplight, and the car in front of me, like, stops, and the person just opens the door and takes their fast food bags, like Burger King or Friendly's, and just puts like 3
Puts
bags
it on
like,
the ground.
on the ground. Like
And
just
it stops in the
and
middle of the
stuff-
street.
Yeah, it was on Route 1. Like, so if those, and I guess most of the listeners live around here, it's a major road, like, but that still has stop lines, and they just, stoplights, and they just put it on the ground. And then the problem is I'm just sitting there looking at them, and they just like look up at me and get like this furious look, like they felt bad, I guess. I can't, they might have
Don't
even,
judge
I
me.
can't even, they might have even given me the finger, like, and I'm like sitting there at my wheel, like,
Can I ask you a question?
why are you mad at me? You're the pig, like.
After they put those bags out there, did they dust their hands off like this, like job well done? Took care of that.
Again,
Threw
you
it
could
out the
tell when we
highway.
made eye contact that they knew it wasn't a good thing to do. And then I'm like, who else is in the car?
But-
Because this was like the back seat. Like, were the other people in the car like, good, that's good. Get
Oh,
rid
so
of
it
the
wasn't
bags?
the driver? It was
No.
the person in the back seat doing
Yeah.
that? Yeah. And they needed eye contact from you to realize that's
Yeah.
probably not the way to get rid of trash.
And then I never understand that the other people in the car, no one in the car was like, what are you doing? Right? Like, how many friends do you have that would be like, oh, yeah, John, just throw the stuff on the street?
Just throw
Like,
it out the window.
Wouldn't anyone you know be like, what are you doing?
Are you
Like,
throwing it? No, I'm not throwing it out the window. I'm opening the door and
yeah,
placing
it on the road.
Okay?
But also, how could you ever? Why? 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 Just take it home and throw
The
it in the
next
garbage.
time you
Like,
go to
why?
McDonald's, just put it in the trash there or at your house or whatever the hell.
Anywhere you're going, throw it out there. Like, I don't understand people.
That's the worst.
But
Yeah.
again, isn't it better if you could just see that? Like, I was probably mad at that person the rest of the way home. Like,
Oh, right.
instead of just being like, what are you going to do? Just
What are you
shrug
gonna
your
do?
shoulders at all these things? All
probably
the
the way to do
cigarettes in front of your house, in front of the gym. And
Yeah.
I get cigarette butts in my driveway, actually.
In
from-
your driveway.
Yeah. I think it's,
Dan,
I think the wind's blowing them from neighbors.
because you don't live on a main thoroughfare
No,
by
at
any
all.
means. Wow.
So I think it must be wind from neighbors.
Think somebody's stalking you?
Yeah. Yeah.
They're out there at night
There's just
looking
a
at your
little
house.
tidy piles at my bedroom, outside my bedroom window of cigarettes. Is that normal?
That's nothing to be worried about.
Sometimes I go out, I just hear, I'm like, I smell smoke. And I go out there and I just hear rustling in the bushes.
Hmm.
Yeah, no, I don't know.
Yeah.
But again, apathy about my
Apathy.
stalkers.
I had some
So
apathy today.
someone's stalking me, so what?
I went to get my cold brew at Starbucks, and they served it in this sippy cup. It's like no straw. I'm used to a straw, and my first reaction is, where the hell's my straw? And he's like, yeah, it's like a sippy cup. It's like we're treating you like a complete infant
Like
now.
a toddler.
Like
Yeah.
a toddler. Yeah, here's your coffee. Here's your sippy cup. Now get the hell out. And I just roll with it. I said, all right.
Yeah, maybe they're going strawless. Like, there's the anti-straw
I
movement.
think it might be a good idea. Help
Yeah,
help
why
the
not?
environment a little bit. Why not? I'll drink out of
Well,
a
that's the
sippy
other
cup.
thing. Because the flip side is people like, can't believe they're taking away the straws. I'm like, oh, come on. like your
The
whole life
pro-straw
you've been
people?
like you've been like, I love my straws. Like, don't you take my straws? Like, come on.
Some places went to the paper straw.
Yeah. I hate the paper straw.
You hate
so
it?
I have to say, yeah.
I don't mind it. Why the
I
hell
don't
not?
like the way it feels on my lips. It's very like sticky and
Interesting.
I'll just go without the straw. I
All
can
right.
go strawless.
You can do that. Yeah.
But if they serve me a straw, paper straw, no straw, I'm apathetic.
Apathetic.
I don't
It's
care.
all good.
Do whatever you want. Do what you want.
I think we might be able to start a movement on this, Dan. The power of apathy.
I'm trying. Because here. Let's get a little philosophical for a second, if you'll bear with me.
All right.
John. I'm like, boy, you could just be like, the key to happiness is apathy, right? To just be like, none of this stuff is bothering me, right? The
Right.
key to peace, serenity, and happiness, apathy. I mean, imagine that. Imagine if like your spouse or girlfriend's yelling at you, and you're like, it's fine, or your kids, you're like, it's fine. And the reason I'm headed in this direction,
Dan, I think you're onto something big here, man.
you're just like, it's all fine. None of this is bothering me. You could extend that out. I'm trying to gradually extend it out.
Yeah.
You could get to like whatever news you want, right? You could be like, yeah, you have 6 months to live. You could be like, yeah, it's all
All right. Let's make
All
the
right.
most of it.
Yeah, let's make the most of it. I'll
Yeah.
do what I can. Nothing
Your
I
wife
can
comes
do.
home. I'm leaving you. I'm getting divorced.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
All right.
Let me start planning from there.
Okay. Sounds good.
Is that a good done deal? Because in a
That'd
way,
be
that's what
so
you
much better than putting yourself through emotional havoc, right?
right, and probably the same result, right? Like, or better
No,
result.
exactly
Yeah.
the same result. No, yeah, better, much
Yeah, 'cause
better
if you
result.
start, instead of that energy of screaming and yelling, that same energy went to like, how do I proceed best from here? Let's tie it back to jiu-jitsu for a second, right? Like,
Okay.
I'm in a bad spot.
Yeah,
What is the best way to keep my head
yeah,
focus? How do I proceed?
right.
This is the life lesson from jiu-jitsu, not to get off track.
Yeah.
But I read something on one of the MMA boards. There was some
Okay.
it's a green name, so a fighter
Okay.
that was, their house got destroyed by a tornado. There were tornadoes
right.
in the Midwest.
Yeah.
And he said he learned from jiu-jitsu. I don't really care so much about this exact story, but I was
Okay.
thinking, he's like, I learned from jiu-jitsu. He's like, I'm stuck in a bad spot. I got to stay focused and improve my position as best I can.
That's pretty damn good.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm like, this is why everyone needs to do jiu-jitsu, right? If you can take that lesson out of the gym
Yeah.
and be like, this is a bad spot. How do you maintain your composure? Just start think, how do I work my way out of here?
Yeah.
Right? Which is all jiu-jitsu.
How to
and all
stop it
life,
from getting worse and improve my position. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's pretty good.
right?
Yeah. Very good. It could be anything. Like even you're going to go compete and you just go and you don't win. But okay, so how did I lose? So I'll just get better at that.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
how much does it help? I mean, I get you can't always help it, but how much does it help you to be like cursing at yourself or whatever? You know what I mean? Like,
Dan,
yeah.
I think you've narrowed into something very important. Like it's like that stress. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Where sometimes if I need to do something and I haven't gotten it done, I start to feel like this anxiety like running through my body, and I'm like, why am I feeling anxiety? I'm like, oh shoot, yeah, I'm supposed to mail that thing that I didn't mail yesterday.
supposed to put out a podcast. That's supposed to publish the podcast.
I'm supposed to send Dimitri the notes for the podcast.
Yeah, right.
Which I haven't done for like a month. Yeah, exactly. But if I have that anxiety, that stimulates me to act. So I guess the danger of the apathy is you might act less. Is that possible?
So I had a conversation with a friend where I was sort of playing up this idea, where I was
Yep.
like, I said something like exaggerated, like the absolute key to ultimate happiness is apathy, not giving a shit, something like
Okay.
that. And then he offhand just replied, he's like, yeah, or the key to total unhappiness. And I was like,
Bum, bum,
you might
bum,
be sort of onto
bum.
something there, though, right? Like, it's sort of like you can still, if you actually have total apathy where you don't care about anything, that's also, you could also see it as total unhappiness, right? Like, it's like a lack of joy, right? It's a lack of, like, because picture the flip
Oh,
side.
right.
Like, you win a tournament and you're like, okay, what did I learn and how do I proceed from here? Do you know what I mean? Like, you don't want to apply this to, like, the good in life as much as you can, right? You know what I mean? You don't
Interesting,
want to.
Dan.
you want joy, right? You don't want to be like, you don't want your wedding day to be like, well, that's accomplished. And
You know what I think we may be saying with this apathy thing? It may be just another way to say low neuroticism, low emotional variability. Isn't it? Isn't that what you're saying?
I think so.
Yeah. Which I think is better than high emotional variability, right?
Yeah, I'm not seeing many benefits to high variability.
I notice these. You ever see these things when like a rock star or somebody in Hollywood does some crazy behavior and people are like, I can't believe it. But if you're a person who's successful in Hollywood, you're likely, on the big five personality inventory, way high in openness, right? And you're probably way extroverted, right? And you're probably way high in neuroticism. So you're emotionally all over the place. So when you have those qualities, you're going to end up doing some weird shit probably, right?
Yeah.
Compared to the other end of the spectrum.
Yeah, and with all the other things weighing in too, like a sort of an open.
You get money, so
You
you
can do whatever you want.
crazy
Like you can
stuff.
have millions of people like you no matter what you do, and you know what I mean. Like you sort of have this
Right.
backing. Do you know what I mean? Like
Right.
where you feel like
So what's the difference, Dan, between profound apathy and stoicism? Because the Stoics are sort of like, we're only going to worry about stuff that's under our control, right? Isn't that sort of the basis of stoicism?
right. I don't know. Is apathy also not worrying about the things that are under control?
Well, that might be the difference. You probably want to worry about the stuff that's under your control a little bit, right?
Yeah, like
Yeah.
the stuff going forward.
Right.
So neither one worries about what happened.
I totally
Yeah.
agree. Sometimes I do a fantasy of that, Dan, where I'm an alien that's just come into this body, and now I'm in this body, and I have access to all the resources this has, but I have no attachment to the past, so I can go in any direction I want. I can create anything I want and do whatever the hell I want. That's a liberating sort of.
I never thought of that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then think, what would that alien do?
Yeah.
Like,
What do I want to do? Yeah.
Hmm.
Pretty good thought exercise, as
Like watch
Einstein would
TV
say.
and eat a ring ding? Maybe some-
I haven't eaten a ring ding in a long time,
Yeah.
Dan. I also have been. I had righted the ship this week. Clean eating the whole week, working out pretty much twice a day, and I moved the needle, but not a lot.
Yeah. I went
Wow.
2 days starving. And again, maybe the reason I say this is like out there, like other people I'm sure run into this. And I want to say it's us too, right? Like I 2 days, I ate so little. Like literally lunch was like seaweed from Whole Foods or some ridiculous meal like that. It wasn't even planned, but I opened the fridge and I'm like, the only healthy food in here is the seaweed.
Oh, right.
So I'm like, I'll eat the seaweed.
I didn't do that, but what I did do is I didn't eat any sugar. So I had like
Yeah.
a steak and asparagus and like ground
Yeah,
beef.
that's
and
my
something,
dinner was that. It was like like a burger on the grill, something
Yeah.
like that, and like one with no bread,
Yeah.
and that's like my whole meal. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, and no breakfast. So I'm sort of like
Yeah, I just do coffee. Yeah.
and throw in, who knows? Maybe I had some pineapple in there or something.
Oh, right.
Like that.
Got
But,
a
like,
plum or something.
yeah.
Yeah.
And then like that was all I ate for 2 days, and I spent the 2 days like hungry. Like that's also when I was feeling apathetic. I was like, I don't care that I'm hungry. Who cares? But I lost like in those 2 days I lost like less than a pound, and I'm like, this is crazy. Like I'm starving.
Interesting. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
I'm literally starving, and I can't. Like
It's going to kick in, and once it kicks
yeah, I
in, you're
think
going to
so.
be psyched.
That's what
yeah.
we've seen it before.
Yeah.
It can't. It makes no sense to be like I'm staying at the same weight, eating half the stuff I used to eat.
Crazy, right?
Right? It can't
Yeah.
stay.
Yeah. I'm doing a Dan Robin in my house. I have a open pint of Ben & Jerry's New York Super Fudge Chunk, and I haven't touched it in a week. Just sitting there.
Yeah, and again, to go back to the apathy, that was working with that too. I'm like, oh, there's delicious chocolate chip cookies right there, like fresh baked. My daughter baked some chocolate chip cookies, and I'm like, yeah, I don't care. Like, yeah, it
Good.
smells delicious. My wife made like banana bread with chocolate chips all through it. I'm like, yeah, that smells delicious. Like, I don't care.
Right.
Yeah, like it smells good. I can't have any. So what?
I think once you get 2 or 3 weeks of this under your belt, then you're going to be able to sample it a little bit,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, I'll start
Yeah.
easing off. My other strategy, like as you know, in the past, it was the weekend would come and I'd gain like 8 pounds back, and I would just go 8 pounds down, 8 pounds back, 8 pounds. So this one, until I lose the weight, I have to go a little easier on the weekends, because then I'll never. I'll never, It'll just keep. I'll stay at the unhealthy.
Yeah.
weight. That's the other tough part about first starting to get back in shape, is like you're like, I'm hungry, and I'm fat. You know what I mean? You're like, because later when you're fit, you're at least, I'm hungry, but I'm like really
Fit.
I'm ripped. Like, but if you're like now, at the beginning, you're like, I'm really hungry and I'm deprived.
What's the point?
And
right?
I still, I still feel like I'm out of shape. So it's like, this is the rough part to get through.
I've also noticed, Dan, when I cut back on my sugar, it throws your energy out of whack. And I feel like I don't have the same energy in the gym right now, because my body's, it doesn't have the same constant sugar coming in to use as fuel. So there's an adjustment to be made there.
Yeah, I think I got all thrown out of whack. I couldn't sleep for a couple nights,
Oh, wow.
when I started this, and I didn't think anything else happened. So I could see that too. It's just like the body chemistry or whatever it is. I'm guessing, because I don't know why else I couldn't sleep. Again, I just lay there awake like, I don't care. So I did. I was like, so what? So I'll lay here. I'll lay here and I'll sort of meditate. And I also saw it this way. We've talked about insomnia on here before, where I'm like, look, if I'm lying here still breathing, controlled breaths, eyes closed, I'm getting a lot of the value of sleep, right? My body's still resting, and I'm getting, it's not
some
like
rest.
I'm getting a bunch of rest.
Yeah.
It's just, I'm not asleep.
Right. And then eventually, if you do that long enough, you just fall asleep
Yeah.
anyways, right? Yeah.
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 So apathy.
Apathy. Yeah. I've been thinking about that, Dan, because I have too been feeling apathetic in this lockdown, and I've been procrastinating, and I have been less stressed about things that I think I might have been stressed about in the past. And I'm wondering if that stress is necessary to prompt me to act.
And it's causing you to procrastinate.
I don't know.
Because you told me this about your procrastination.
Okay.
That once you procrastinate on one thing,
Yeah.
you start to procrastinate on a lot of things.
Definitely.
Like you just start putting everything off. It's like a snowball.
Yeah. It's like a log jam, like that first procrastination. So
and you were saying it's the littlest thing. Like you could be like, I need to move this to the basement.
yeah,
And
it's
you're just
usually
like you could be like, I could get that done in minutes.
usually involves paperwork, mailing something, a trip to the post office,
Right.
like things that I find utterly banal and meaningless. I just can't pull the trigger on it.
Because there's so many things like that in life, right? That like, I
Right.
need to do this, but
I'd,
first of all,
I'd
even if
rather
I
do a
don't-
grueling, painful workout than do some dopey paperwork, Yeah.
I had that where I like somehow, I guess, I don't know if I still don't know what happened. I think a lawnmower kicked a rock up and shattered like a window in my backyard, but
Okay.
it's like the windows that are in a door, like a glass door.
Yeah.
And I'm just like out of nowhere, I'm like, how do I get this fixed? You know what I mean? It's like, you just know, you're not like, I need to go get a new door. It's like, I need to like find the model of the door and like figure out who do I call, and like, how do I identify the door, and how do I order the part?
Right. The
So-
anticipation of
Yeah,
the
you're just like, I don't want to do any of this, especially because it's like, well, I don't want to get into the point, but it's like sort of double pain. So it's sort of like, I could just leave this cracked thing.
Oh, yeah.
I don't have to deal with it. You know what I mean? So it's sort of like,
that was me. That would probably never get done. Yeah.
you just have a cracked door.
Yeah. Yeah. Tough. I don't know.
So here's what I do
Okay.
is and this doesn't, not everyone has this thing in their brain, but
Yeah.
I'm a checklist guy
Good.
where I'll write like to do, like a list of things I need to do, like literally written out.
Yep.
Like, I would never work on my phone or on like
Okay.
a computer,
You need a
like
physical piece of paper.
physical piece of paper. And then I get to cross each one out as I do it.
Okay.
And then I put it somewhere like where I can't miss it.
Yeah.
And then those undone things stare at me
Yeah.
and like mock me.
Do you
And
put
I'm
it
like,
in your
I need-
pocket or you put it someplace
I put
else?
it someplace in the house,
Mm.
like on my desk or on a wall. And I'm like, and you cross one out, and then there's one staring at you, and you're like, all
Good
right,
method.
let me
I
get-
might have to
and
try
and then I
that.
start, and then there's one left, and you're like, all right, I can get the last one done if I.
Yeah.
Or you stare at it and go, I could knock off all three of these this morning. Like if I go to the post office and I stop by Home Depot and I, like I could wipe out the whole top of this sheet. Like that works for me.
That sounds
Checklists.
good. Well, I'll tell you what worked for me.
Off.
Now we're giving tips about breaking out of procrastination. So I had to send in some documents to the International Brazilian Jiu Jitsu Federation for them to certify me for my 3rd stripe on my black belt, which I've had for many, many, many years now. But they, it's just a bureaucratic nightmare dealing with this organization. So I finally said to my son, "Can you help me do this?" And then,
what kinds of things do you have to send?
So they want you to send them a cert for CPR. They want you to go to a rules course and pass the rules course, which I did already. But
why would you have to do that with your 3rd stripe? Like, obviously you had to pass it.
Dan, it's a bureaucracy. I don't know. It's like
even the CPR. Everyone with the belt has to know it.
Yeah, I don't know. Okay. The standards they have.
Is it because you run a gym, or is it anyone with a belt?
If you want to be certified at a certain level, like a black belt level, then they have these standards.
Okay.
And then you do all that. You send them the documents, and then they charge you $400 or something to certify you. Yeah, it's a total money grab, and it's a bureaucratic nightmare. So I had done most of the things. I think I'd done everything on the list, but some of them you had to do it within the last 12 months. So and I just hate it. You can tell the way I'm talking about it. It's just so dopey and meaningless. But my son was like, "All right, let's go through this." He goes, "CPR," and I'm like, "Actually, I did it. Let's find the cert." I had a file on my computer, so we uploaded the cert for the CPR. Rules course, you took that over a year ago, so you got to take it again. In the rules course, Dan, I had to go sit there for an hour or so, and then there's a test, like 20 questions. I answered all 20 in 8 minutes and handed it back, but now I got to sit there for another
Are they very
couple
easy?
hours. Yeah. You know how it is, right? And then they want a core recheck, but luckily you can do that online, so I filled that out online. So I pretty much knocked it all off. I don't know if there was another item on there too, but I think I got them all handled. But if I didn't tell my son, "Can you help me do this?" And he literally didn't have to do anything but say, "All right, we need this now." And then we found it. But he gave me enough energy to break through that.
I have a similar thing for some of these things where I'm like, it helps a lot for someone to join you.
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
and like some people I get they sort of live alone, but most people have someone they can call, like sibling or friend or something. But like a lot of times I need that where I'm like, if I'm staring at something like this. So I just did this morning. I went to change my license into a real ID. They have that in Boston, Massachusetts, or maybe the country now, where it's like a real ID. Pretty soon you're not going to be able to get on a plane with just your license. Like you're going to need this real ID.
Okay.
You can have your passport if you don't have it.
Yeah.
But like it's annoying. Like I looked up like, all right, I'll switch over to the real ID. And it's like you need to bring in, it sounds very similar, right? It's like your license, your social security card, a passport. And then it's like two proofs of residence, which is like it has to be a first-class mail from a bank or utility bill, these kind of things. They're sometimes not easy to find. I'm like, where's my utility bill? I pay online, like, you know what I mean? Like, and it helps me to just bring someone else in. You can be like, "Can you just be a second presence here?" Sometimes they don't have to do anything. They're really sitting there and you're like, okay, like sort of talking out loud. And I'm like, all right, so I need this. I have it, this. Utility bill, I guess I can get that online. And like literally sometimes they're sitting there not doing anything. And I'm like, all right, now I did it. And it sounds like sort of that's what you're saying. Like they don't have to do anything. Yeah. Just someone sit there and I can bounce something off. That'll be for me too, like even chores around the house, like replacing a window, where it'll be like, can you just be here to sort of sanity check me? Like, you know what I mean? Or like say put together furniture from IKEA or something.
Ooh,
where it's just like, just someone be there so I can like sort of think it through out loud and have bounce something off someone. I just find it much easier than, even if I put that furniture together all by myself, with the person sitting there is easier to me than doing it with
I think
alone
so.
in a room.
Yeah. And I think the lockdown affected me in a sense where, you know, I guess for good reason, but the government's saying you can't run your business. You can't do your thing.
Yeah.
And you're like, I can't do my thing. What the hell am I going to do now? And I think it can I felt like it robbed me of a sense of forward momentum a little bit, you know?
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Put the main part of your life on hold, right? I mean,
yeah, kind of. Yeah. And then, you know, we've started back up under restrictions, but generally when you're running a business, you have this feeling like you're going to grow your business. You're going to increase sales. You're going to make it better. And in these conditions, it's hard to feel that way. It's like, how are we going to survive? And it's not as energizing as it might be otherwise. You know?
How are we going to survive is not as energizing as how can we grow and thrive.
How can we make this place spectacular and bring all these people in? So it's a little tricky, but I'm sure we'll bounce back. My son and I and Maria are going down to Orlando in October. They have the GI Pan Ams down there, actually. So we're going to go down there and compete.
So they're allowing these kinds of things. It's good.
They are. So what the hell? We figured we'd go down there and try to strangle some people.
Who's competing?
Rory, me, and Maria so far. Yeah, maybe some other people too. Yeah.
That'll be exciting. It'll feel a little bit like getting back to normal.
I tell you, Dan, though, I'm not that excited about it because, as I've talked endlessly on this podcast, I don't want to bore people. I had that long-term goal of winning the Masters World Championship, so I've accomplished that. So going down and competing isn't that thrilling to me right now. So I got to get my head in the right place.
A new goal.
Something,
you had
Dan.
tentative goals, right? Like maybe winning open weight or.
Yeah. It doesn't. It's not affecting my nervous system. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like goals. I mean, I don't think you just pick arbitrary goals, right? It's something
has
that's
to be something that really you feel it, right?
Yeah, you feel it. Your nervous system naturally responds to it. You know, like I had one of our students met with me a few weeks ago. Great guy. We're going to keep it confidential, but I can give the outlines of it. And he was like, "Yeah, I'm feeling a little undermotivated and looking for some direction. I hope you can help me." And we were talking about this idea of coming up with an exciting long-term goal that's not completely unreasonable. It's somewhat feasible, but it's exciting enough to get your nervous system fired up.
What's the rough level of this student? You know, like, are they beginner or?
Not a beginner, Dan, but they were just speaking in a broad sense, not even about jiu-jitsu.
Oh, okay.
So then I said, well, maybe you could pick a jiu-jitsu goal where, I'm going to try to win the ADCC regional trials or something. And it might take you 2 to 4 years to do that. And that could be something that could energize you, empower you to do it. And he was like, yeah. And I could just tell by when I laid out that wasn't the thing. Because it didn't, like, perk him up. He didn't get any kind of goosebumps. His ears didn't, his eyes didn't widen. So it's like, all right, then that's not it. And I'm like, you can't force it. You know what I mean? You got to find something, I think, that naturally stimulates your nervous system that makes you go, oh, yeah, that'd be cool. Oh, could I do that? Maybe I can do that. So,
that's right. And it doesn't even have to be jiu-jitsu.
Doesn't have to be jiu-jitsu. No. Yeah. And it might be impossible to be jiu-jitsu if it's not naturally getting you excited, right? But the other theme we went back to is whatever goal you do choose that's exciting, it's probably good to arrange it so that you're developing yourself and you're building yourself up, building your skills, making yourself better in general as you move toward the goal. So whether you achieve it or not, you're just in a stronger position in life in general, So, yeah. So that's sort of been my watchword for the last month or so, Dan, is development. So when I come to the academy, I say to myself, I'm here to develop my students. I'm here to develop myself. What can I do to help them develop themselves? What can I do to develop myself?
Right. So it sounds like, tell me if I'm wrong, you're motivating yourself to get better at jiu-jitsu through that approach. Like I'm here to develop, and you like that. But the tournament is less competing you're less driven because you don't have that long-term goal in terms of competing. Like you have a terms of
But it's not turning my nervous system on. It's not
Yeah.
firing me up. Go, yeah, that'd be great to win the Pan Ams. It's just like, yeah, that would be good. Yeah, I'll go down and compete. I'm like getting there by saying, well, if I go down and compete, it's probably, maybe it'll make me a better coach. I have a little bit more experience with competing. So I don't know, maybe I'm being an example for students. I'm not sure, but I got to find a way to.
right. But you have something to compare to, like you competed last year and you
That was very
felt
exciting.
different. You're very
Yeah,
excited.
felt different then. Yep. So I got to find something that's going to give me that same spark that I had last year about it. And I'm not sure what it is. It's very tricky, right? I was listening to a video that John Danaher put up. He's an amazing coach, and he put up this 45-minute video talking about takedowns, because I think he's going to release a takedowns for jiu-jitsu competition instructional. And guy's got amazing instructionals, Dan. Amazing
It's probably
instructor.
going to be good, I would guess.
It's going to be good. But I had mixed feelings when I watched this 45-minute video, because he basically laid out sort of 5 or 6 parameters of what he considers good takedowns. And I essentially have been operating under those same parameters for a number of years now. So I'm like, oh, that made me feel good. I'm on the same page with the great John Danaher. That's awesome, You want me to go over some of them for the takedowns?
Sure.
Yeah, so one of the ideas is you maybe want to avoid back exposure. So you might not do the typical Seonagi shoulder throw, because maybe the guy can take your back. So let's not do those. And then one of the other ones is, let's not do a takedown where I don't control the guy enough when it hits the ground. So if I do kind of a hip throw and he just controls me and rolls through and ends up on top, in jiu-jitsu, that doesn't serve me. In judo, I think you might win the match. So let's take those off the table. And then maybe let's not shoot in a guy where he can sprawl all his weight on top of us, especially if the opponent's bigger. So let's take that off the table. And then let's look for takedowns that are faster to mastery than others, which I love too. I'm like, I want to teach a white belt a technique that after a few months he can implement it, and with some success. Like some maybe judo throws, like Tayatoshi, I think is the one he used as an example. They're beautiful, amazing, effective throws, but you're going to spend some time mastering it before you can really be effective with it. So maybe we don't look there. So, and then basically the way I always look at things, let's do a takedown that is low risk in the sense that it's difficult to end up in a bad position. That's kind of the general theme of what he's talking about, So they might be collar drags and I think sweep singles, and he was showing ankle picks, things that if I miss, I'm still sort of in a neutral position. It's not going to work against me too much. So it's comforting to say, wow, I'm on the same page with this great instructor, right? Wouldn't that be? But then, and then he said, and then we're almost the same age. I think he's only 3 years younger than me. Then I was like, oh, but I'm never going to be as good as an instructor as John Danaher, because he categorizes all the information and he organizes it in such a way that it's really excellent the way he does it, because I guess he's a professional academic anyways, So I was like, wow, that's cool. But I was a little bit, I'm never going to be as good as him. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, even though I'm pretty good and I understand all his concepts, and I'm actually arrived at some of the same concepts independently of him, he's just presenting it in a much better way, and he's very effective,
You do it. You got to just develop yourself, right?
I got to develop myself. And the other thing I consoled myself with, Dan, after some introspection, is that, yeah, he's a different person than me. So I have probably a skill set that doesn't overlap perfectly with him, even though we're both jiu-jitsu instructors and coaches. So I got to find out my unique set of skills that have a lot of value for people and amplify and build on those. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you happen to know what those are, Dan?
Yeah.
I think I'm a more entertaining podcaster than.
Is it?
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. Have you heard him podcast?
But
You have your procrastination.
I got that. Is that a valuable skill set?
Yeah, I don't know. You'd have to work on it, I think. Develop it. I don't know.
I think I have more hair than him. But that's the other thing. Of course, we shouldn't be comparing ourselves to other people.
Right.
I should be comparing myself to myself. And I've been revisiting that concept constantly now, Dan.
Yeah. What's the difference of how you stack up against John Danaher in your life? It doesn't matter.
Right. How do I stack up against myself from yesterday? That's the thing. Even our academy, I'm trying not to look at other sort of rival or not rival academies and saying, what do we do? If anything, I just want to know their effective methodologies that we might be able to adopt, you know what I mean, to become better. Yeah.
That's what I was going to say. The only downside to comparing yourself to, just say to John Danaher, is if you start trying to do what he's doing and it doesn't suit you. You know what I mean? That would be the downside. Or other academies. That's when it's wrong, when you're like, that's the downside. When you're like, you look and you go, oh, they're doing this better. Let me do their thing. And it doesn't suit you.
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
Right. I will say this, Dan. My son and I have been teaching some very small classes because of the restrictions. But, man, I think we've taught the best classes I've ever taught in my life. And it's really rewarding that way. And some of the things are, Rory's very on point technically with all the technical aspects. So we're teaching these techniques, and he's a very clear, direct communicator. There's no fluff, there's no guru, there's no attitude. It's just like, here's the technique we're going to learn. Here's why we want to learn it. Here's how you do it. And then we do our active recall, where we go around the room and say, all right, Steve, what do we do next? Okay, Dan, what's the next step? And which just gets the fundamental steps into people's brain and nervous system so fast. And then we have them drill it. And then we're going live with the very technique. And I don't know if I explained this to you before. So we're sort of starting at the end, and then we're backing up. So we were doing a pass from half guard where you're over the guy's leg, you're chest to chest, you have a far side underhook, you have a cross face, and then you lower your hip a little bit, and you put your instep on their thigh to help you pry out your leg, and then you go to mount or side control. So we taught this technique, and then we get to the point when we start training live, we get the guy's instep already on the thigh, and they already have the underhook. So they're 90% complete. Let's go live. And now you get white belts who've never done this pass who are successfully finishing this pass the first day it was taught to them. So we spend maybe 5 or 10 minutes doing that, and then we go, okay, now you have the cross face and the underhook, but you don't have your instep up on their thigh, and we're going to go live from here. And then they learn to finish it from there. And then we back it up, and we say,
I
okay.
assume from there, they just have to go, how do I get my instep into
Their
position?
instep, exactly.
So it's simple. There's just how do I get my instep here? And then now I remember what to do from
there.
And
then the last time we backed up on this particular one is they're in the half guard, so they're chest to chest, but they don't have an underhook, so they have to get to the underhook. And, man, guys actually end up in one class leaving with a certain level of mastery with a pass, which is, to me, almost a miracle.
Yeah.
I think it's fantastic. And I think you would appreciate it because, you've been a long-time student, but I think some of the newer students don't realize how effective that is.
The magic.
They're like, that was a good class. I'm like, dude, you just passed that guy live correctly, technically, soundly in one class. That's amazing, So that method, I think we're going to do more and more of,
Is a side point that the students that aren't back need to come back because all these people are going to pass them now?
I don't know.
They're all getting better really fast now.
I am doing private lessons, so if anybody, I have some students that I owe private lessons to, so if they reach out to me, I would love to help them. And I'm doing some private lessons that I can do now. And I think I'm a better teacher than ever, Dan, and that's important to me. So I'm always working on that, my methodologies of teaching and what's the word? Pedagogy? Is that the word for sort of teaching method?
Yes.
Yep. So I'm always trying to improve that, and and I'm just focusing on that with the laser focus. How can I get better? How can I make help my students develop faster? And so that's a good thing that's come out of this. I think when you go into this kind of lockdown situation, sort of unnecessary things just fall away. They kind of you have to end up dropping them and refocused on the essential things. The other thing I think that's going to happen in our academy is we're not going to have too many superfluous ceremonious things like excess bowing or standing in line according to your rank or any of that stuff. Yeah, I'm not interested in going back to that stuff. I just want to stick to the essential personal development, helping students develop and helping myself to develop. Whatever serves that end is what we're interested in, you know? So, yeah, I guess that's a good thing of
Sounds good.
the lockdown, right?
Yeah.
Get rid of the unnecessary stuff. Sort of the original Bruce Lee kind of approach, right? Take
Yeah.
what's useful, discard the rest, right? I don't know. So maybe we should. That's a good point to wrap it up on, Dan. What do you think?
Yeah, I think so.
Awesome. So I hope everybody's doing well out there, and please subscribe when I finally post this. Tell your friends about it.
Yeah, there's going to be a while from now since we're backed up.
I think no problem, Dan. I'm going to break.
We're
Big
just gonna
breakthrough's
start.
coming.
Right.
Awesome. Thanks, everybody.